Kind of singing. I thought that was so. I've already told somebody about some of the things in her car. My brother was. One of the illustrations gave me one night when I didn't know living have a name and Charlotte got it, which is the one in the Air Force. So
Oh, okay.
It's precious that you guys, your sister, I guess, but draw names. And so I Charlotte got it. She gave it to me. And no, one of the brothers, he got east of Chicago. I said, I understand, but you've always lived far away. And Jason is like, you know, saying,
Thank you, Alan.
And the problem we get is they only put them in like every Friday or whatever. Well, if they've already passed away and you have the funeral.
Yep. That's what I said. I couldn't believe it.
I mean, we have a lot of families. There's just family. I stayed with them the last 2 years. And John started This has been so hard because we'll put it together. I just pray for them all.
Yeah.
My baby sister just uterine cancer. My mom passed away. She's 12 years old. Everything was really good. Like my baby sister. You know what I mean? We're just like, you're not really just like we're not ready for it anytime, especially when it's she's doing great.
coach. It's all I'll be over in a couple of hours.
I seen you put something down, I thought it was.
I did.
It is.
How many kids? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, I did one year, so you one this way.
You're probably close enough for it.
I know, I just.
It is.
Miss me, Maya.
Would you rise, please? Be seated. On behalf of the family, I want to welcome you to this memorial service for Brenda Faye Robison. Brenda was a wonderful, wonderful woman who touched each and every one of us in a special way. Her laughter, her stories, her, how did you put it, family? Her tenacity to be a little goofy every now and again has brought us all together to marvel at her memory, to say farewell, not goodbye, but to say farewell on this sacred day. King David wrote these words for us in his psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. And even though when I walk through the darkest of valleys, some saying the shadow of death, I fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for all eternity. There is a tense change in that sacred psalm that King David wrote many, many millennia ago. It is a change in the moment he faces death. Before he faces death, he talks about the grandeur of God, the wonderness of God, the beauty of God. But it's only when he enters that valley, that shadow of death, that darkest of valleys, that he stops talking about God and starts talking to God. And thus, that is where we find ourselves today. This sacred moment, this sacred hour, we ask God to be with us, to be with the family, to be with our friends, to be with us as a congregation, wrapping the divine, strong arms around us to say, God is with us. And I think that is what Brenda would say as well. Would you pray with me, please? Gracious God, God of mercy, God of hope, God of love, and especially now, God of comfort. We come to you today asking that your presence be about us, that your presence be about the family, that they might feel your love, your peace, your assurance, your compassion more now than ever before. And we too need your support. And so, God, we invite you into this moment as we say farewell to someone that we all were affected by. Brenda's compassion, fierce loyalty, commitment to others. May we never forget Christ Jesus we pray. Amen. We will now hear In the Garden, accompanied by Brenda's niece, Emily Miller. And then later on, we'll have a second song as well. If you know the words to this sacred hymn, In the Garden, we invite you to join along. Leading us in song is Kelly Miller, and we thank you for leading us today, Kelly. Now we invite one of Brenda's grandsons, Michael Robinson, up to share a special poem. His grandmother was a lover.
When my life has reached its very end and I take that final breath, I want to know I've left behind some good before my death. I hope that in my final hour, in all honesty I can say, that somewhere in my lifetime I've brightened someone's day. That maybe I have brought a smile to someone else's face, and made one moment a little sweeter while they dwelled here in this place. Lord, please be my reminder and whisper softly in my ear, to be a giver, not a taker, in the years I have left here. Give to me the strength I need Open up my mind and my soul, that I might show sincere compassion and love to others before I go. For if not a heart be touched by me, and not a smile was left behind, then the life that I am blessed with will have been a waste of time. With all my heart, I truly hope to leave something here on earth that touched another, made them smile, and gave them my life worth.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. And now we invite another one of her grandsons to the podium, Justin Youngquist. Justin.
Brenda Faye Robison of Norman, Oklahoma, passed away from this life on November 19th, 2022, at the age of 63. Brenda was born in Sugar Land, Texas, on December 30th, 1958, the daughter of Otis Barton Faskey and Marjorie Jeanette Sismont Faskey. Brenda worked as a registered nurse for over 45 years, a career she thoroughly enjoyed and was highly dedicated to. On June 27th, 1981, Brenda married the love of her life, James Robison, in a beautiful ceremony in Altus, Oklahoma. Brenda had a vivid and imaginative mind. She was an avid, lifelong reader, and she also enjoyed writing, especially poetry. She enjoyed singing and being outdoors, especially when she was tending to her flower and veggie gardens. More than anything in life, Brenda cherished the time spent with those she loved, especially her family, all of whom she absolutely adored. She was a devoted wife, mother, grandmother, daughter, sister, and a dear friend to many. Brenda will be deeply missed. She was preceded in death by her mother, Marjorie Faskey, and two brothers, David and Clifton Faskey. Left to treasure her memory are her loving husband of 41 years, James Paul Robison, of the home, her two children, daughter, Rachel Youngquist, and son, Christopher Robison, two grandchildren, Michael Robison and Justin Youngquist, 6 sisters, Phyllis Murphy, Carol Myers, Linda Russell and her husband, Bob, Kathy Frankham, Susan Miller and her husband, Kelly, and Martha Barbie and her husband, Keith, and one brother, Glenn Faskey and his wife, Rhonda, and a host of nieces, nephews, cousins, and other loving extended family and friends.
Thank you, Justin. The Greek word eulogy means a good word. And let's face it, there is more than one word, one good word at least, to talk about our dear Brenda. And so we invite Susan to come up, or better known as Susie, to come up and share about Brenda's life.
All right, I'm going to tell you now, this one's not quite as easy as Mom's because I wasn't ready. So I don't think anyone was, but I have a pretty vivid memory, and a lot of people make fun of me because they're like, how do you remember that? But I do. I remember Brenda just always being there as a protector, as someone who tried multiple times to help my mom get to where she needed to be in life, if you know what I mean. I remember Brenda ran away down the railroad tracks when I was about 5. And I followed her because I said, if I follow her, she'll have to come back. So I followed her all the way down. And she turned around and said, Susie, go home. And I'm like, nope, I'm going with you. And sure enough, she turned around and walked me back home and explained to me that I needed to stay there, but that she had to go. And I didn't understand all of it, but I knew partly why. Later, I learned that after Brenda ran away, she called some authorities to try to help my mom. And because my dad was there at the time, things didn't happen quite the way she wanted them to. So she never lived with us again until my mother decided to move to Altus, and she finally got the courage to start again in a safe place. So part of us lived a different life than Brenda and Carol and Philip. I mean, it was like five, my other five sisters and brothers, and then the younger five. And we kind of had a different life because of the way Brenda helped my mom, and the way Phyllis helped, and the way, I just remember all my protectors who always made sure I was safe, and Brenda was there all the time. When we moved to Altus, she didn't move in with us because she was still living in Texas, but then after Linda got married, I remember how happy I was because Brenda drove us home in her big, giant brown car. She had this giant, I think it was like an Oldsmobile or something. And all the way from Tomball to Altus, we sang. And I mean sang a lot, to where by the end of the trip, we probably had no voice. And I think she did that on purpose, so that all the little kids wouldn't have any. But we sang like, dance the marching. I mean, like long songs that took forever to sing. Or Ida Mae, you know, or she's, you know, the same. She sat on her front porch and smoked her cigar. All those songs that Mom had taught them, then they taught us. And so that was like one of those pieces of culture Brenda had to make sure we knew. And also they made up a song about a boy. Some say his name was Jamie, and some say his name is John. But he told me his name was Lover, and now my lover is gone. And it's a whole story about how she went to a jail cell, and then the next day she would meet her maker instead of her bridegroom. Anyway, I was 7. I didn't know what all that meant, but boy, I still remember the words to this day. And I think that was a concerted effort between my sisters, and they all made up different verses, and but we sang it right before we came here. Me and Linda did. So just kind of the best memory I have is that we would sing in harmony. You know, Linda would take alto, I'd sing soprano because I didn't know what alto was yet. And I just remember singing at Christmas. I remember singing at birthdays. I remember my 21st birthday. My sisters got together, and you know what they bought me? 21 pennies, because I turned 21. And they said, don't spend it all in one place. But I do remember I basically lived with Brenda and Paul as I grew up. Brenda lived with us until Rachel was almost a year old, and we all shared a room. And Brenda and I shared a bed. And one of my weirdest memories, but it's very dear to me now, is I had eczema, like the kind that when you scratched, it was called weeping eczema. And then, y'all don't need to know all this, but it would get like real scaly, and it would sound like you're scratching sandpaper. And then this is what Brenda would do over and over during the night. Quit scratching, quit scratching. And so every now and then she'd look at me like, I've outgrown eczema, thank God. But every now and then she'd just look at me and I'd be scratching. She'd go, quit scratching. You know, so, like I said, a little strange but dear memory to me now. And we shared a room until Paul came along. Because then she moved out again. Well, she told me she was moving out. And then I remember just getting ready for the wedding, and one day we went to the local laundromat around the corner, and that laundromat had a whole bunch of vines growing down the whole wall. It was beautiful, just ivies. And so we went and stole a whole bunch of ivy that night, and we put in some water, and the next day we drove to the church and decorated with it. A whole bunch of free ivy. But on our way to the church, well, Brenda was, you know, singing to the radio. And I remember her doing this, you know, driving and singing. And then there was a police siren. And then, I don't know if she got a ticket or a warning, but she explained to him that she was on her way to decorate for her wedding and that she was really sorry. And this being Aldous, I think he let her off with a warning. Because I remember later she was still really happy. So, because, I don't think she would have been as happy if she got a real ticket. But that's just my memory of that little situation. I do remember that she gave me my first paying job, and that was to watch Rachel. And I watched Rachel all the way until I got into high school, and Brenda told me about a job opening in the pharmacy that she thought I was smart enough to do. So at 15 and a half, she took me over to take a test, and I took that test to be a pharmacy clerk. And then from there, I became a pharmacy technician. And then everybody told me, you should be a pharmacist. And I said, hey, they make a lot of money. So I went to Southwestern to go to pharmacy school. And Brenda, on my graduation party, she gave me a roll of quarters. And she told me that I could call her anytime I needed her. And I did, a whole bunch, like all the time. Because I got into my classes and I was still working in the pharmacy and I was making IVs and I hated it. Because I like to talk. And when you make IVs, you kind of are in this sterile environment, gloves, mask, your head's covered. You can't listen to the radio because you don't want to give the wrong dosage for whoever needs an IV. So, hated it. And I called Brenda and I said, I hate it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go to pharmacy school. And she said this to me. She said, if you hate what you're doing, it's just a job. But if you love what you're doing, it's a career. And then that's when I tried to find what my true calling was, which was teaching, which was talking all the time, because if you teach, you get to talk. But just something very, very beneficial to me that I will remember for the rest of my life, just because everybody else was disappointed because I wasn't going to make any money. I mean, and the pharmacist that was over me at the time, my boss, she was disappointed because, she'd been grooming me to be a pharmacist all these years since I was 15 and a half. And here I was changing majors, changing schools, that kind of thing. But when I went to OU and I graduated, she was at my graduation and she would always bring Mom. Anytime I asked her, can you bring Mom, she would bring Mom. Or I'd go pick up Mom. But I remember her being at my college graduation. I remember her singing at my wedding. And she was freaked out because she'd never sung in front of that many people before, she said, but she did a beautiful job. And I remember her, when I had Emily, the first face I ever saw, after I had, well, besides Kelly, was Brenda, and she had brought Mom so that they could be there. And all the important times of my life, Brenda has been there. And so, I remember also the day that Carol called me and said, Susie, Brenda's been run over by a truck. And I was like, what? Like, I thought she was figurative, and it was real. And my sister, to me, besides my mom and my other sisters, who I believe are all strong women, my sister beat breast cancer. She beat sepsis, because I remember meeting the helicopter in Oklahoma City because no one else could get there before, so I met that. And she told the doctors, basically, I'm septic, give me this. And she told the doctors what medication she needed to get better. And then she beat a Mack truck. That's the way I look at it. It broke her, but she made it through it. I remember I made a little list of songs for her, and I brought it to her in the rehab unit there in Wichita Falls, where she stayed for a long time. And I put on that, the first song was Be Still and Know That I'm God. And I had just, let her listen. I gave her some headphones, and she just started crying. And I said, why are you crying? And she said, because I've been thinking of that verse for the last week, and then here it is. And I believe that music helped heal her. And I believe music is the reason that we all are together so much. We love each other, we love to sing. And together we're going to be strong to, get through this. The main thing I want to say is, and I have a necklace she gave me that says, always sisters, forever friends. And I loved it when she gave it to me, and I love it more now because, Brenda, you're going to always be my friend. And I remember how much you taught me and how much love you had for your family. One more little memory. I remember Emily, this was way before I had children or anything, and I was sitting in front of Brenda, and Rachel was little, maybe. How old were you when Chris was born? I don't know. But Brenda was crying like big tears, and Rachel said, "What's wrong, Mommy?" And she said, "I'm so happy because today now I have one girl and one boy, and our family is big and our family is good," and that she's trying to explain to Rachel what happy tears were. And I shed a lot of happy tears with Brenda, and I'm going to miss her really, really a lot. And, I'm here for you, Paul and Rachel and Chris and everybody. Down the street, do the left. That's what she'd always say. I'm down the street and do the left. Because she was left-handed, by the way, so that was kind of funny to me because of that. But I guess what I want to say, all out of everything, is that, Brenda, you did touch so many people's lives, and you made so many people's day. In the hospital, I remember when I worked in the pharmacy, everybody loved Brenda. Everybody knew Brenda. And I got so many just quick emails and texts from people in Altus that I worked with in the pharmacy who said, "I love Brenda and I love your family." And so her love and her singing and her joy for living and all her little wind chimes that she gave me are going to just keep going on to remind us to keep singing, even though this is hard as can be. So I have a really short little poem, and then I'll stop, because I've got a lot of memories because I'm old now. So, and since Brenda's been there all the whole time, it's like, but it says, it's called "If You Must." If you must, cry if you must, but laugh more, because laughter was our theme. It was. Weep if you must, but sing more, because there is such joy that music brings. Sleep if you must, but walk more, because in those woods I roam. Grieve if you must, but live more, because you're not alone. And I believe that Brenda's there with Mom right now, singing and dancing and acting goofy together and making up new songs. You know what I mean? I love you, Brenda, and I love you, my family.
Thank you, Susan. Now let us sing together another sacred hymn, Amazing Grace, as Kelly.
Saved a wretch
Thank you, Kelly and Emily, for leading us in that beautiful, beautiful hymn. Well, I must admit to you, I did not know Brenda well, but I do know her family quite well. And on occasion, she would walk through the doors of North Haven Church with that bright smile and that beautiful spirit, and she would add to the ongoings of what was ever happening under the congregational roof that day. And even though I did not know her well, I did know her legacy well, because as I got to know the family more and more, it was quite apparent Brenda had an incredible effect on people. She loved them, she cared for them, she rooted for them, she laughed and cried with them. Brenda Robison was a jewel for all of us. When Justin read the obit a moment ago, he mentioned the fact that Brenda enjoyed getting her hands dirty in the garden, both the flower garden and the veggie garden, right? Have you ever noticed how many significant moments in the Bible happen in gardens and in the outdoors itself? The garden is where God breathed life into humanity. Out in the wilderness, God told Abraham about his great promise. It was on the side of a mountain. God called Moses to lead his people and offered them his law. And then there was Jesus. Jesus was always talking about vineyards and gardens. He spoke of vineyards, flowers, and gardens all the time. It's a wonder people didn't think of him as a gardener instead of a rabbi. It's no wonder the two most significant moments in Jesus' life came within the confines of a garden, where the birds sing and the sun pours down upon the world. The Garden of Gethsemane was a beautiful little spot outside of Jerusalem where weary travelers could find respite and locals could enjoy the beauty of nature. Sadly, however, on the night of the Passover observant, almost 2,000 years ago, Gethsemane became a place for the highest dramas. Jesus had gone to the garden that night to pray after finishing the Passover observance with his disciples. As they were praying, in fact, in the midst of that prayer itself, Judas arrived with the temple guards entering the garden gates. The guards arrested Jesus, taking him into custody. And yes, it was inside of the Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus would spend the last moments with his closest friends. There is something about gardens. Less than 24 hours after his arrest, Jesus was crucified and buried in another garden. This garden, however, while it would start out as a gloomy moment, would end up with the greatest story ever known to humanity. It was early on Sunday when Mary Magdalene came to the garden to pay respect to her dead teacher. They buried Jesus in such a rush that Mary and the others did not have the proper time to mourn and pay proper respect to him. She was there to right that wrong. And so as she entered the garden cemetery that bright Sunday morning, she thought about her own life. She couldn't help it. She thought about the hard times that she lived after having to work so hard just to make ends meet. Those of you who don't know the story of Mary Magdalene, look it up. She recalled crossing Palestine on foot, trying to find a ride from point A to point B, having to pick grapes in the vineyard and olives off the trees just to make ends meet and put food in her belly. At her wit's end, everything seemed to change the day she met this scraggly rabbi from Nazareth by the name of Jesus. He brought life into her haggard bones. She began living a new life, filled with hope and filled with compassion. Life was not just about trying to survive, but it transcended her existence. Mary realized, after following this person of Jesus, she was put on this world to help others. She remembers the words of Jesus clearly. Love God and love neighbor. Mary never forgot that lesson. But now her teacher was dead. She stood in this garden at the break of dawn with tears pouring down her cheeks. How could this have happened? He was not supposed to die. How could he be gone? How would she and the others go on without him? And as these thoughts filled her mind, and as she approached the very tomb in which he lay, she noticed that the stone had been rolled away. A messenger standing near the rolled away stone said that Jesus was no longer in the tomb, that he had risen. All of this was not making sense to Mary. But nonetheless, she was told to go tell the disciples, and so she did. She ran. She rushed off to tell them. It was Peter and John who went sprinting into the garden. She could not keep up with them because they were quite fast. But when she arrived, she was alone again. The disciples had fled. And so she noticed there by herself in the garden the sounds of the birds singing. She felt the morning breeze bump against her cheeks. She stared at the lilies bursting forth from the ground on this warm spring morning. All of a sudden, from behind a bush, she heard someone coming. It looked like a man. She thought him to be a garden caretaker. And she asked, "Do you know where they have taken my Lord?" The man, for a moment or two, stood there, just staring at Mary. She had to be a little startled and started to feel a little awed at what this man was doing. Why wasn't he saying anything? Didn't he not hear her question? But finally, with a wry little smile, the man simply uttered these words, "Mary." It was Jesus. He was alive. In the garden, Mary's hope bloomed. With Jesus alive, the bird's song seemed a little louder, the sun felt a bit warmer, and the flower colors looked a little more vivid. It was in the garden that her life changed forever. Brenda Faye Robison enjoyed singing. She enjoyed being outdoors, especially when she was tending to her flower and veggie gardens. There was something about getting her hands into the dirt, watching what she planted grow and then eventually bloom. It was there where she found solace and quietness, even in the midst of the birds chirping and the wind whipping down the plain as it does here in Oklahoma. She enjoyed the garden immensely. More than anything in life, though, even more than the garden, she spent and cherished the time with those that she loved, especially her family, whom she absolutely adored. While her flower and veggie gardens were all very beautiful, they pale in comparison to the life garden she leaves behind today. For you, her family, you, her friends, you, her colleagues, you are the blooms are the most beautiful blooms that she has ever grown in her garden. After talking to the family this week, the story of Mary at the garden just seemed to be a natural fit when talking about Brenda. For it was Mary who came from humble beginnings, fighting for every inch she had. It just so reminded me of Brenda. Brenda, the survivor, fighting tooth and nail for herself, but more so for her family. As a young woman, she hitchhiked. For those of you who are 50 and less, that means standing on the side of the road with your thumb stuck out, begging for a ride as cars drive by. She hitchhiked across the country, picking cotton and picking berries just to make ends meet. She finally ended up in Altus, where she started selling coffee at the hospital. Working extremely hard and loving the hospital environment, she decided to pursue a path towards nursing. As a nurse, Brenda was compassionate, dependable, and generous with her time. It seems as though this vocation of nursing was her life calling. She was meant to take care of others. Patients loved her charisma and that infectious laugh that bellowed down the halls of the hospital. She carried confidence into that room. Patients felt that confidence. And their worries were eased when they saw Brenda walking through the door. Even as much as Brenda loved her job and helped every patient she encountered, she loved and encouraged her family even that much more. Remember that time, family, when she snuck, and we will not mention names because this is illegal as all get out, but she snuck the family member into the sonogram room so that she could administrate the sonogram? Hospital administrators might have frowned on that, but Brenda would not see anything less than her eyes on that sonogram. She took risks because she loved so much. With family always in her heart and standing beside her, there were so many moments of laughter, tears, and just reveling in the moment. And sometimes we forget about that, don't we? We always think about the high moments, the low moments. But there were just moments. Moments of games in the living room, of meal prep at Thanksgiving, driving down a highway to another family event. Those are the moments that make life special. Those are the moments that we cherish. Maybe we forget, but we always cherish. Yes, she had a nurse's heart. And that heart went far beyond the hospital room, offering compassion and care for those that she called by name. Husband, daughter, son, grandchild, sister, brother, friend, co-worker. You didn't realize it. She was nursing you. She was caring for you. She was loving you. And all the time with her sleeves rolled up to her elbows, tilling the dirt and preparing you to bloom. And thus we go back to the garden. She cultivated you. She watered you. She cared for you. Her tenacious love brought you to the point where you find yourself today. You, her family, her friends are the most beautiful garden ever planted. Therefore, if Brenda would allow me, I say this to you. Go therefore and bloom. Bloom where you are and remember your gardener. For her touch is upon you. And there will be one day, if it's not already today, where the spade will be handed to you, as well as the watering pail. You will till the soil like Brenda, planting and working your own garden. And with your hands in the dirt and seeds between your fingers, I ask you today and tomorrow to remember the most important step in the gardening process. Not only do you need care and water and cultivation, the secret ingredients is love. And that is a secret to Brenda's life. She loved and she was loved. Wherever you go, let your flower bloom. Remember, keep Brenda's memory alive. For you now are the gardener. Amen. Now, let us continue to remember and reflect upon this beautiful soul, Brenda Faye Robison. Let's watch the slideshow.
Listen, children, to a story that was written long ago of the kingdom on the mountain and the valley far below. On the mountain was a treasure buried deep beneath the stone, and the valley people swore they'd have it for their very own. Go and get your neighbor, go and cheat a friend. Just justified in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. So the people of the valley sent a message up the hill, asking for the buried treasure, tons of gold for which they killed. Came an answer from the kingdom, with our brothers we will share all the secrets of our mountain, all the riches buried there. Now the valley cried with anger, mount your horses, draw your sword, and they killed the mountain people, so they want their just reward. Now they stood beside the treasure on the mountain top and red, turned the stone and looked and knew that peace on earth was all it said. Go ahead and hit your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away. Go ahead and hit your neighbor, go ahead and cheat
shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. Sunshine on the water looks so lovely. Sunshine almost always makes me high. If I had a day that I could give you, I'd give to you a day just like today. If I had a song that I could sing for you, I'd sing a song to make you feel this way. Sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. Sunshine on the water looks so lovely. Sunshine almost always makes me high. If I had a tale that I could tell you, I'd tell a tale sure to make you smile. If I had a wish that I could wish for you, I'd make a wish for sunshine all the while. Sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Sunshine in my eyes can make me cry. Sunshine on the water looks so lovely. Sunshine almost always makes me high. Sunshine almost all the time makes me high. Sunshine almost always.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful memories. we want to continue reflecting upon those beautiful memories. Every now and again in a memorial service, there is a time during the service called a testimony of love. And the family wants to invite friends and family to offer this testimony. So over the next few minutes, we are simply going to give you an opportunity to rise where you are with your voice and utter out a word or phrase or a sentence to remember and pay your respects, and more importantly, to testify to the love of Brenda. At this time, what say you about this beautiful, beautiful woman?
One of the sweetest spirits I've ever known.
Thank you.
Her faith was deep.
She loved her brothers and sisters.
She was the love of my life. And she could be dearly missed. She nursed me to keep me alive and everything. All the time. The sickness and health, she took care of me. She loved me and I loved her. And she loved all the people. And she loved the nursing. She wanted to go back, but she just couldn't. Disabled. We both just stayed together. I wouldn't let her out of my sight after she run over head on with a semi. I told her from there on that I will never separate from her. I'm going to miss her dearly.
Others.
My aunt was a blessing, and she was a hero to us all in the medical field, and I am proud to stand beside her.
Thank you. Others.
I remember her always laughing. Oh, I'm sorry. She always laughed.
Yes.
My sister was a great comfort, always, and someone that you could talk to about anything. And she just had a giant heart. She could make you feel good in some of the worst times.
Mm. Thank you.
She was a great singer.
Love that. Thank you. Anyone else?
Just as a colleague, she was one of the sweetest, kindest people I've ever known in my life.
Others. By the testimonies that we hear today and those that you hold in your heart, that you will indeed share the days following. There is no doubt Brenda was a special lady, a lover of people, brought laughter and kindness and generosity and compassion and love into this world. And we will never forget her. And as I said just moments ago, you are now her legacy. She lives on through you until her soil, you water her plants. And may we never forget her memory. And may we provide those laughs. May we provide that compassion, that loyalty, that commitment, that tenacity, and even that goodness. That is what we are called to do. At this time, before we offer a closing prayer, as it has been heard here today and has been known throughout Brenda's life, she was a dedicated nurse. And so at this time, I invite her colleagues up to the front to offer a nursing honor guard.
lamp is a symbol of nursing. It is the symbol of Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp, who is known as the founder of modern nursing. We light this candle today for Brenda to symbolize her nursing career and her contribution to the field of nursing. As many of you know and have heard, Brenda's life was wrapped around nursing and has affected many of us and our calling. As we are here representing the Southwest Oklahoma Nursing Guard, we're more than that. In 1999, I had been a part of this family for just a few years and had the opportunity to make a decision and to follow my love and my career as a nurse. And Brenda was one of those people that inspired me to do that. So 20 plus years later, I'm honored to do this with her. Nursing is a calling, a lifestyle, a way of living. Nurses here today honor Brenda Faye Robison and her life as a nurse. She was there. When a calming, quiet presence was all that was needed, Brenda was there. In the excitement and miracle of birth, or in the mystery and loss of life, Brenda was there. When a silent glance could uplift a patient, a family member, or a friend, Brenda was there. At those times when the unexplainable needed to be explained, Brenda was there. When the situation demanded a swift foot and a sharp mind, Brenda was there. When a gentle touch, a firm push, or an encouraging word was needed, Brenda was there. In choosing the best one from a family's thank you box of chocolates, Brenda was there. To witness humanity in its beauty in good times and bad without judgment, Brenda was there. To embrace the woes of the world willingly with hope, Brenda was there. And now that it is time to be at the greater one's side, Brenda is there. Brenda, we honor you this day and present this white rose to symbolize our honor and appreciation for being our colleague. Brenda Faye Robinson. We officially release you of your nursing duties. We will carry on for you.
On behalf of Brenda's family, I want to thank you for being here today on this sacred day in which we remember the legacy and life of Brenda Faye Robison. She will live on through us all. Would you pray with me, please? Gracious God, God of love, God of kindness, of compassion, God of hope, more than anything, God of love. We come before you today, remembering the life of our dear Brenda, that of wife, mother, sister, grandmother, colleague, and friend. You have given us a gift. Knowing Brenda has simply meant knowing you, because no one could look at her life and not see divine presence. Thank you so much for giving us the honor of knowing her. And as you have given her to us, now we give her back to you. And we look forward to that day where we will all be reunited. And we will laugh and we will cry. And we will look towards eternity forever and ever. Amen.
Forgot to say she's also the smartest one. You know where I was. Isn't that beautiful? I remember that. Yeah. I know.